And how'd you know it was just the real me and somebody not impersonating me? I heard on the Michigan channel they've got an impersonator.
Well,
Have you
because
heard
I
that?
saw the description, occasional caller, the voice college football, something about like from the Hawkeye, the Storm, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the real you. There you go,
Yeah.
and you had that iconic D and the iconic orange background.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for following me. I am glad you just are able to comb over the entire internet as quickly as you do. I mean, you're just like a machine.
I do my best, man. I do my best to make sure I can remember everything around me.
I got you. So there was some disrespect about my go, Patrick Mahomes, saying he's only one of the five best quarterbacks of all time. Only. Like, he should be at least top three, maybe top two. Like, who are we putting behind him? Because I understand Tom Brady, and there's an argument for Joe Montana. But after that, are we going to put Terry Bradshaw behind? I mean, Terry Bradshaw or Troy Aikman. Like, who are we putting behind him? Peyton Manning? These scrubs? I mean, Mahomes, seriously, they're scrubs compared to Mahomes.
What about Johnny Unitas? What about Johnny Unitas, for real?
He played in an era in which they didn't you couldn't even watch the game on TV, so I don't even count that era.
Li-
Like
Listen,
Mark's
Real.
saying here, hey,
Well,
Tom
well, you
Landry's
could
the
watch
greatest.
the game in color TV, so there's
Right.
that.
I'm like talking to Mark, and he's like, Tom Landry's the GOAT because he invented the 4-8 defense. I'm like, bro, nobody cares. Like, with all due respect, man, nobody's going to use that as a. I'm the first time I've ever heard that in an argument. He invented like the ancient text scrolls. He forged from fire and stuff. It's like, good gosh, man.
So, Real, I'm glad you called in because I do want your opinion on this. What the heck happened on Sunday? Like, care to explain?
Yeah, have you
Because
seen in
because
the
of
back
you
of
guys.
the and sometimes when you're driving, you'll see stickers on the back of cars, and you'll have a big fish being eaten by a little fish. The big fish was the
Uh,
Eagles, and the little fish was the Chiefs. That's what happened.
because Real, I understand a lot of people love Mahomes, but by golly, if he doesn't get no offensive line help, this is just going to be the same story every time you play a defense that has a front seven. My goodness.
Yeah, I know. Well, Austin, I'm going to assume you're older than 6 years old. Is that a fair assumption to make?
Yes, Real, I'm older than 6 years old.
So,
Well, he's
so you should
21 to
remember
be
in
exact. Well,
2019
22.
when the you should remember in 2019 when the Chiefs had this exact same problem. And what have they done since then? Have they done anything good? Maybe like win 3 Super Bowls, been to 4, been to 6 more AFC Championship games. I think we'll be fine. It's not like we're here, hurting in the poor line. We're not like the Jacksonville Jaguars now, or the Cleveland Browns, or the Tennessee Titans. So we're not on that avenue. My goodness.
I take offense to that about the Titans. No, I'm just kidding.
It's fine. I'm
Listen
sorry
to
for Will Levis, by the way. I'm sorry for that.
You're good, man. You good.
listen, Real. I appreciate everything I watched with the Chiefs. It's special watching them, but that's twice on the biggest stage that the offensive line has failed you. Twice. Because it happened with Tampa. Don't you think that's a little concerning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned. I mean, listen, it's concerning, but I've got a great GM and I've got a great owner, and we're gonna retool the offensive line. I'm sure in the draft we'll get some pieces, maybe some offensive linemen from Texas. I saw was projected to go from us. They're pretty good on the offensive line, so get them. Hopefully, they're good. And it's not. I mean, we'll be waiting for the AFC Championship game next year. Well, I mean, we got how many more days into that? 300 some days before our season starts again. I mean,
No, actually, it's a lot shorter than that.
the
Let me
AFC
see.
Championship game, because I don't care
No,
about the
no.
regular
Oh,
season or the
no. I
wild
thought you
card.
were talking
That's
about the start of the season.
Oh, no, 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 no. The start of the season for me occurs in the playoffs. Like, I don't care about regular season games, those meaningless regular season games, where you just win. You just win, you just go in there, and no matter what happens,
Yeah.
you just find a
Well,
Yeah, Jax. You got to understand the Chiefs are a cinch to at least win 12.
Oh yeah. Death Taxes and the Chiefs winning 12. So let's see. Super Bowl 60 will be February 8th, 2026. And we're going to look
Uh-huh.
at the 2026 calendar. So that's obviously the last Sunday of January. And then, nope. Oh, there we go. January 25th. So that's going to be the AFC NFC title games.
So we
So,
got plenty of time. We got
yep.
plenty of time to figure it out in the offseason. But if you're telling me we got that long, I mean, we got time to work out our combinations, plenty of teams to practice against, make some adjustments on the field. Instead of maybe winning by 3 against everybody, we'll figure out how to win by 7 or 14. And that'd be nice.
Well, you got a 348-day head start.
Yeah, I know.
I think Austin just got blown away. He's just like blown away by how many days it is till then.
Well, Austin, you're a
Listen,
Cowboys. He's a Cowboys fan, so this is all above him. He doesn't understand what deep postseason runs like.
but listen to real. I'm not ashamed to say this. I was the only one in my entire Super Bowl watch party that was rooting for you guys because, like I said, I didn't want the Eagles to win, and I'm not afraid to admit it. When you all lost to real, I ain't never cried before over a football game. I did Sunday because I was like, really. I
You
did
had a
because I
lot of
was like,
time to
really.
process. You had a lot of time to process the L. I mean, it was over quick. And it just went from bad to worse to worse. It's like a stock that just is constantly going down on the graph. It never peaks. You think somewhere one day it would go up? No, it right down. And then it was a penny stock. It went up to a nickel. That's what happened to the Chiefs at the end. We played like the Fox scoreboard look. Complete disaster. I'm not sure if you. I don't know what your thoughts about that scoreboard is. One of the ugliest scoreboards I've ever seen. How come this bothers me?
I want
This is
the NFL on Fox scoreboard to look like how it did in 2004, 2005, or have it look like it did in 2008.
This is one of the. I agree, completely agree with that. This is one of the small things that bothers me. How come for the Philadelphia Eagles, their timeouts, the underline, it was in green behind it, but for the Chiefs, it wasn't in red? Who made that decision? Either take away the color for both of them or keep it consistent with the color of both of them. It's like, oh my gosh.
Some moronic intern that was doing a bad job at graphic designing made that decision.
I know. And also, I learned the other day that it's called score bug because it's a digitally displayed on. You watch it on TV, so it's called a score bug. Where if you're in the stadium, it's a scoreboard. I can't think of any other item in the world which we use to describe that. If I see a cup on TV, it's not a cug because it's on TV. It's still a cup. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
And Darrell, I want to bring this up because everyone on X and Instagram and everything, they're relishing this right now. All I see is that everyone's like, "Oh, the NFL's healing. The Chiefs finally
Oh yeah.
lost. Taylor Swift, got booed out of the building. Travis Kelsey's gonna walk off and retire. Mahomes is no longer gonna have his big buddy. Andy Reid's overrated. The refs stop rigging the games." And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, but then when the AJ Brown pass interference called, all I saw on Twitter, Darrell, was, "Oh, they're rigging the game already. They're precious Mahomes boy. They need this. They're trying to cheat him already." Darrell, what is this like as a Chiefs fan? Help me understand this because I don't have the refs. What's this like watching this?
I'll be honest. And I've had to apologize publicly to Patriots fans. I used to scorn Patriots fans for like, man, you got the refs in your pocket, and they were just so arrogant about it. But as a Chiefs fan, I understand exactly where the Patriots fans are coming from, and I tell you what, I don't like having the refs give you all favorable call. As somebody who gets all the favorable call, it's so nice. I never have to worry about anything. I don't have any stress when watching any football game ever. It's so nice, but the whole "it's rigged" thing is just from people that can't win anything, so they got to cope and rationalize it. I mean, one of our favorite people that we have on these shows, Moose, he always likes to talk trash, and he's a Lions fan, and that's the Chiefs have had more success in franchise history this year than the Lions have in 50 years. So people just hate to hate, and that's all that is.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing.
Sounds like in the off season we're gonna have to set up a debate between you and me.
You remember when he
Oh
called
boy.
in to the shows, by the way, and then he just completely stopped calling? He called in when we had the Big Ten show, and it was the debate, or not debate, but it was a panel like this. He used to call in.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And then he never calls in anymore.
Well, I think he's been going some personal stuff at the moment.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. But we'll have to see if he's doing all right. And once he's doing all right, we'll check on see he'll be back to call back.
Well, if they take away his national championship in college football, I don't think he'll be doing all right. Because I still believe that should be on the board.
That's gonna be quite a conversation for the off season.
Yeah, because it's fun interacting with them. They don't, but that's a whole separate conversation. Austin, it seems like you got a question you want to ask.
Yes, Darrell, and this is being serious because I want you to get in on this conversation since you are the Mahomes, I guess, the Mahomes guy. Does this game hurt his legacy as far as catching Brady and everything else with it?
No.
What do you
Why
think,
would it
Darrell?
hurt? Why would it hurt his legacy? He went to the Super Bowl, for goodness sakes. I mean, did Tom Brady miss the playoffs in his first 7 years, and he's still the GOAT. So I don't understand how you make it further. You're ahead of Brady. If Patrick Mahomes plays as many years as Brady, which is a bit of an assumption, but if he does, he's still on track to be ahead of Brady. I mean, Brady was 3-2 in his first 5 Super Bowls, as well as Tom Brady. Mahomes has played worse in his first 5 Super Bowls than Brady. That's undeniable. But the idea that, well, Mahomes has got to win 12 Super Bowls now because he got crushed in this one is like, nah, man. He made it there. He can make it to 12, 13. What if he makes it to 12 and 13 or 13 Super Bowls and he wins 8 or 7? That's probably what'll end up happening. He'll have like a LeBron type legacy, and Brady's going to have a Jordan type legacy, and that's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I mean, we know that Mahomes is a class act, and LeBron is not. Like when LeBron's losing, he'll just walk off and pout and leave his teammates deal with the butt whipping.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about their character. I was just talking about in terms of, I think they're going to play. They're going to have a similar legacy in terms of longevity compared to championships won.
And here's what I'd like to say, Darrell. If I was to play devil's advocate for a second, go along on the journey with me. So Mahomes could have done something this past weekend that not even Brady could have said he was done, and that's win 3 straight Super Bowls, 3-peat.
Hold on. I got to stop you there. How many times did Tom Brady have a chance to three-peat? How many times was he one game away from a three-peat? How many?
0.
Okay, so
0.
he already did something Brady didn't do, but you continue.
Okay, so with that, let's just say, Brady has the 7. And the thing about it too is, and this is what I've heard and listened to a lot, is in order for Mahomes to even, a lot of people think he's got to catch Brady or tie him. If Mahomes has a 3-peat, Darrell, a lot of people thought that would have opened the conversation up if he just fell short of that 7. Do you see why a lot of people are asking the question, does this hurt his legacy? Because now he has to catch Brady at 7 for us to even acknowledge this conversation further.
Maybe. I'm not one of these fans, though, that believe you got to count the rings, bro. You got to count the rings, and that's the only thing that matters. I believe there's just so much more to football than you got to count the rings. I mean, Bill Russell would be the greatest NBA player of all time if we were just counting the rings, and he's clearly not the greatest. He's a great player. He's one of the greatest players of all time. I just think people who do that are just surface level fans that don't look in depth. I mean, I hate to say it because it sounds arrogant, but it's true. Just watch Mahomes. Just watch him. It's clear he's so much better than everybody else when he's on the field, no matter who he's against. And I've never seen anything like this. Even with Brady, Like when Rodgers was in his prime, they would go back and forth, and Rodgers would have his moments. Peyton Manning would have his moments against Brady. Brady had some horrific playoff games, by the way, absolutely horrific playoff games. He had one playoff game. He had 3 turnovers in the first quarter. Nobody ever brings that up because 7 rings, bro. So I think that we need to go more in depth than just the surface level. Count the rings.
Well, you were talking about, counting the rings. Perfect example was like Super Bowl 50, Peyton Manning's last game. A lot of people remember Peyton Manning won in that Super Bowl, but here's the thing. The Broncos defense were the ones saving the day against the Panthers. Some people tend to forget that, but a lot of people remember it as, oh my God, that was Peyton Manning's final game.
And here's the thing, too, Daryl, and I want to say this. For as lot of flack as Josh Allen gets, and you talk about how Mahomes is ahead and better than everybody else, Josh Allen has proven he can rise to Mahomes' level. We've seen it a couple times. We've seen it in 2021. Mahomes and Allen literally played the greatest quarterback game I think I've ever watched in my life. And if it wasn't for the overtime rules, who knows? Maybe Josh Allen goes down, ties it again.
I mean, he probably does, in fairness, but that's not the way overtime rules were written. And I mean, I feel bad for him, but my counter argument to that is if all we're doing is counting the rings, bro, your defense shouldn't be giving up a drive of like 40 yards in 13 seconds. I mean, that's just unexcusable. That's when they lost the game. It's not the coin
That just
toss.
shows the greatness of Mahomes. That's where the greatness comes in at. Because who else does that?
Nobody. That's, in my opinion, when we're having 10, 15 years later when he retires, I'm just projecting when he'll retire. Well, that play will quantify why he's the GOAT, or that drive. Nobody else could do that. Not even Brady could do that. Just bang, bang, you're down in field goal range, you kick it, you go to overtime. That's just one of those things we're going to look at, like Jordan with the reverse layup. Yeah, it's just one of those things that it's like, because people don't go in depth into the numbers, go into the percentages and all that stuff. People just look at the basic highlights, and that's just a highlight that everybody will know about because it's so spectacular. I mean, Brady's had a few good highlights, but I think over time, because of Brady being so fresh in retirement, I mean, honestly, the greatest play in the Patriots dynasty isn't even a play made by Brady. It was by Malcolm Butler when he intercepted the pass against the Seattle Seahawks. So I think some of the Brady shine, the further and further we go down the road, will be taken away.
Well, and the thing too is, Jareel, like I said, this is a very subjective conversation. And it's crazy, Jareel, that we're already putting Mahomes in the same breath as Tom Brady. That's how crazy this is. Like, we're not talking about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. We're not talking about any of these other quarterbacks. And I just feel bad, Daryl, for the next group of quarterbacks like the Cam Wars, the Shador Sanders, because this is what you've got to deal with now. It's no longer there's one guy, there's two. It's Brady and Mahomes. Try catching that. Like forget trying to catch Brady. Can you catch Mahomes? That's going to be the next thing for this next group of guys.
Thomas Hero was in the private chat a little while. He was in the waiting room a little while ago. We don't forget there's the call-in link for those who want to call in with us tonight. So we got the link in the chat. Let's come on in. There you go.
Well, I understand for the players, but imagine if you're an owner in the AFC. You had 20 years of Brady, and then there's an immediate perfect handoff into the Mahomes dynasty. You've had basically 25 years of a dynasty in your own conference. You know how tough that has to be if you're the owner of the Texans or the Ravens? It's like good. It's like the Ravens have been trying to win Super Bowls, and they've
Oh,
been a great franchise for this entire run. But unfortunately, they've just always been except for rare exceptions, they've been always a run below the absolute best. So that's who I
yeah.
truly feel sorry for, because if you're a GM of those teams, you're always like, we got to get over the hump. We got to get over the hump. We got to get over the hump. And the hump you're getting over is the first and second greatest player in the sport. That's tough. I mean, go to the NFC side. I mean, look who you got to face. You got to face a bad 49 or an injury-prone 49ers team. You get an Eagles team that is a gimmick play. That's what they're known for, is a gimmick. You got the Packers, who with Aaron Rodgers really didn't do anything outside of 1 year. He would always crash and burn in the playoffs. So I
Oh,
feel bad for the AFC owners and GMs.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll say this too, Daryl. Here's the thing. Realistically, let's look at the landscape real quick for the next 3 years. Obviously, the Chiefs, they're the kings. No denying that. Their challengers are probably the Bills, Bengals, Ravens, and then maybe the Chargers. And then after that, you kind of take a big dip at competition. Like, those are the only teams I would see as threats to your crown. And even then, you beat them time and time again. So I don't know what other moves any of these teams below them can make that would dethrone the Chiefs in the AFC.
No, the only thing that I think is what will happen is people will treat them like the Patriots and just stop making moves with them and just kind of force them to age out. I do think over the next 2 or 3 years, the Chiefs aren't going to be able to keep up this legacy because age was clearly a factor in this game. I mean, Kelsey wasn't Kelsey at all this season. He was just kind of an afterthought. We didn't really have a wide receiver one. Rashid Rice did get hurt, but I don't know. I don't believe Rashid Rice is this unbelievable wide receiver. And Xavier Worthy did show flashes, but I was expecting a bit more out of him. I was a bit disappointed. Maybe the most empty stat line in Super Bowl history, his 150 some yards. I mean, whoop-de-doo, man.
Yeah.
90 at least, like all of
Well,
it.
the Chiefs, I think they're gonna be fine because like they're gonna be getting some draft steals. I mean,
Right. Well,
they're
we
gonna
Mhm.
be.
also got what's
Oh, what the
different
heck?
about us and versus the Patriots is
The heck?
we got a competent division where the AFC is full of incompetent people. The Bills, Dolphins, and Jets for 20 years couldn't get their stuff together. I mean, just look at the coaches in the AFC West. Jim Harbaugh is probably the fourth best division in his own division. Think about that. I mean, you got Pete Carroll in there who's won a Super Bowl ring, who was at USC and created a dynasty. I'd put him above him. Sean Payton won a Super Bowl ring. He was great with the Saints for a long time
Mhm.
with Drew Brees, and Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches of all time. So that's so much better than what the AFC East is with Tom Brady had to deal with. So I think that it's possible within the next 2 or 3 years we win or the Chiefs win 10, 11, even 12 games, but don't even make the playoffs because of just how ridiculous that division is.
Here's the thing, Daryl. I kind of feel like the Chiefs, they're gonna always win their division. Like you said, it kind of feels like the Patriots syndrome. Even though no matter how hard these other teams get it together, you can always bookmark they're gonna beat the Raiders at least once. They're gonna beat the Broncos. They're gonna beat the Chargers, and it's just like the real. And here's the thing: I've come to the terms of the Chiefs are going to be in the AFC Championship game every year. I've come to that. After that, I've almost come to grips that the Chiefs are going to be in the Super Bowl every year.
Well, I mean, I hope I get to that point, but I mean, I'm honestly a bit worried about next year. I'm like, I maybe it's just me from like seeing how bad they were this year, and I'm recency bias and all that stuff, but the teams in our divisions aren't lying down and giving up. And eventually, like through the law of averages, eventually one of these teams will beat the Chiefs twice.
Mhm.
All it
Mm-hmm.
takes is for like Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert to beat them 19-17 twice, and then somehow the Raiders pick off one or the Broncos pick off one. The Broncos look much better. I mean, look what they did this year with Bo Nix as their quarterback. I don't think he's a good quarterback, but they made the playoffs, for goodness
Mhm.
sake.
And this was supposed to be the rebuilding year too. Think about that.
Yeah, I know. So I think you're not giving the division nearly as much credit as you should be giving because, I mean, if I'm a player and I want to win, I mean, going to the Chargers, Raiders, or Broncos could all be viable destinations. They're not like the Jaguars or just castaways, like the rest of the AFC East was just castaways.
Poor Jaguars.
Oh, agree. And we got our next caller. We are lucky to have him call in with us. He is the one and only Hamas Hero, man. How you doing today, man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
I was
Going
going
good.
pretty
How about
good.
you?
Apologies on the error with StreamYard. Apparently, it was doing some kind of mess around.
Oh no, it's okay. I was wondering what was going on, but it's all good.
Yeah, I was like, how'd you ban? He's like, oh, I got
How much who's
check.
your NFL team?
The Bengals, of course.
Oh, okay. So just another one of those teams we beat every year. So okay, just
Actually, you don't beat us every year.
Yep.
I seem to remember.
Oh boy.
I seem to remember beating you guys in the AFC Championship. You remember that one?
oh, sorry, that was 4 years ago. That happened so long ago, I forgot about that. My apologies.
But hey, I just wanted to say after listening to Darrell plead his case and after doing some deep reflection, I think I'm gonna have to agree that Patrick Mahomes is a GOAT. You know, I was just thinking about how that played out in that last game there, and I mean, his face was in the grass so often. I mean, he must have been doing some grazing down there. So seriously, I mean, like, I think I'm ready to call him a GOAT after that. I mean, he had to have been eating some of that grass. So I mean, he's kind of like a Les Miles. You remember that one? Les Miles is
Yep,
a
in
GOAT.
2010 against Alabama, where he
Yeah.
was eating some grass, and there was a
So,
highlight of him
I
on
mean,
CBS.
I think Patrick realized like he's never going to unseat Brady, so he just kind of like Les Miles knew that he was never going to unseat like a Nick Saban or a Urban Meyer, so he just decided he would, I can't be the greatest of all time, but I can be a GOAT. You know what I mean?
So this is
I don't
interesting.
think Mahomes really cares about breaking Brady's record. I think honestly he wants to play as long as he can, and I think he wants to be at home, get to a point where he can be at home all the time, spend time with the kids. Because like right now they're like little itty bitty babies, and let's see.
Yeah.
So when he's in his late 30s, they'll be like entering high school, they'll be in middle school. He wants to be there when they grow up.
Yeah, but this is interesting because Homer's Hero was throwing massive shade, which is interesting because the Chiefs over the last 7 years has had more success than the Bengals have had in their entire franchise history. For goodness sakes, I mean,
Yeah. Well,
what do you want the man to do to possibly contend?
But that's a good point, and that's like now to get to some serious talk about the subject. That's a good point that you bring up, Darrell. And the key word that you said is franchise. You said franchise, and that was one of the points that I was making earlier in chat. I think that if you put numerous quarterbacks on the Chiefs right now, I'm not saying that Mahomes isn't a good quarterback, and he's probably arguably the best quarterback in the NFL right now. But I think that it's a good franchise. I mean, and that's the point. It's not an individual sport. So, and you said it yourself. Everybody's just counting rings. You can't just count rings. You know what I mean?
I agree. You shouldn't just count rings.
Yeah,
because counting rings is a superficial thing. But you
right.
look at I mean, when you
Well,
look at the counting stacks,
let's look at some metrics then. Who was the best quarterback in the NFL this year in terms of numbers?
Well, in terms of numbers, I would personally go Lamar Jackson, but I know
it was Joe Burrow. It was Joe Burrow. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he had some
it was
moments
Burrow.
and some key plays and decisions where he didn't make the right read
No,
and the right throw.
It was Burrow. Like you're reaching. It was Burrow.
Oh, okay. If you want to say Burrow, that's fine.
If the Bengals had 3 more wins, Burrow would have won the MVP. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Maybe even if the
I mean,
Bengals
yeah.
just maybe even if your Chiefs didn't just throw that game at the end of the year to the Broncos and the Bengals would have gotten to the playoffs for it, might have won the MVP.
Yeah, I know. If maybe you all would have beaten the mighty New England Patriots, you all would have made the playoffs too. But I mean, the Patriots with Drake May and stuff was just too much for you all in week
Well,
one.
I know that the Chiefs threw the Bengals in the playoffs, so
Yeah, we
know,
were just so
you want
afraid of playing the Bengals. Just so afraid of playing the Bengals, the mighty
easy way to not
Bengals.
have to play. Easy way to not have to play them is to just give that game to the Broncos so that the Bengals don't make it in.
So you all, let's say
Pretty
the Chiefs
despicable.
win, okay, and you all are the 7th seed. First, you have to go to Buffalo and beat Buffalo.
Well,
what are the odds of this happening?
They've proven they could do that before, also.
Okay, they've proven it with a different team. They could do it. I'm talking about this year's Cincinnati Bengals versus this year's Buffalo Bills. You know how many yards Josh Allen would have against that Cincinnati Bengals defense? He might have 750 yards of offense by himself. My goodness.
What you're not realizing, though, Dero, once again, you were saying you don't pay that much attention to the regular season. If you actually followed the Bengals throughout the regular season, you'd realize that they won 6 of their last 8 games.
Yeah, I've watched that game
were
against the Broncos where they needed overtime to
team.
win against the mighty Broncos, man. Just the powerhouse of the AFC, the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix.
Well, no.
Real quick.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying the Chiefs would have lost that game anyways. I'm just saying that's a problem.
This idea that the Bengals are like the 2021 version.
Darrell, listen, do you like that reality where a team can just throw a game like that and keep somebody else out? Or do you think that is kind of a problem?
I mean, from a principle perspective, I think everybody should be playing every single week. But they weren't throwing the game in order for it. They earned the 1 seat. They wanted the extra rest. It was in the best interest of the Kansas City Chiefs. And Travis Kelce on his podcast said he was asked about this conspiracy theory, and he says, "Give me the Bengals. I want to beat the best teams." I mean, no offense, but you all think you all are so much better than you actually are.
So,
like you are.
I'm saying it's a problem. It's a problem. If you looked at it from any type of competitive standpoint, you'd say that's an issue.
Well,
so what should the Chiefs do? So they tried real hard to go. What's the incentive for us? Because we already locked up the 1 seed. We did everything we were supposed to do. And by the way, you all needed other things to happen. It just wasn't the Chiefs. The Chiefs could have won, and still you would have had other teams that needed to win in order for the Bengals.
The Dolphins lost, though, Darrell. So it did come down
to that. But the Chiefs didn't know that when they were playing the game. They had no way of knowing.
So I'm looking at the Bengals for 2024. 7 of their 8 losses were 1 possession losses. And usually when a team has that many losses that are 1 possession, that means there's going to be a really good year next season. 2025 looks like it can be a really good year for the Bengals. Because, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule. I mean, it's not going to – like, we know who they're playing, but it's not going to be announced till early May, which will be on the first or second Thursday of May.
Do they play the Patriots again, Jackson? We got to make sure they avoid the Patriots.
They play the Patriots. They play
the Patriots. We want to just call it a wrap. They play them. This is why I just can't.
But they got the NFC North, like the Bears, the Lions, Packers, Vikings. That looks like it's going to be rough. The Bills are a road team. I kind of feel like the Bengals can really pull this off in 2025. I mean, they can be a top contender. They just need to make sure they've got some of those personnel moves taken care of. Like
the cap space is an issue, and Burrow wants the franchise to re-sign T. Higgins, and Higgins is great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of
you need a defense, bro.
Yeah, it's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like the cap space that it's going to require to keep Higgins could be spent on a couple of really good free agents for the defensive side of the ball. It's one of those things like they finally got the offensive line in order, and now the defense is not there. Because the offensive line was what was getting Burrow beat up constantly for the first 4 years of his career. And they fixed that, and now the defense is, so. But I don't know. Like I said, that's, and once again, getting back to what kind of, we went off on a tangent bickering here, but what I was saying about Mahomes is you can't just look at the play. It's not an individual sport. We're not counting grand slams in tennis and saying that Pete Sampras or Serena Williams are objectively the greatest tennis player based on grand slam wins. So when you look at Super Bowl quarterbacks, I mean, here let's throw this one out there. How many Super Bowl rings does Dan Marino have?
None.
0.
How many Super Bowl rings does Trent Dilfer have?
1.
So he played with the Ravens, so that makes it 1. That was against the Giants.
I think he won. Did he win one? Did he win one with the Bucks?
That's right. He did play with the Bucks. That was when John Gruden was going against his old team, the
Or was
Raiders.
that Brad Johnson that won with the Bucks? Well, regardless, Trent Dilfer has at least one Super Bowl ring.
No, that's right. Dilfer wasn't even at the Bucks at that time.
Yeah, that was Brad Johnson, I think. But regardless, Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl ring, and I don't think anybody in their right mind would say that he's a better quarterback objectively. But what you can say is that Trent Dilfer played for better franchises who put him in a position to get Super Bowl rings. And that's true. Miami could never put it together when they had Marino, but Marino was a very good quarterback. Anybody who's old enough to have watched him would know that he's an excellent quarterback. And that's what I'm getting at. I'm not throwing any shade at Mahomes. Like I said, I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's, arguably in the top 10 to 20 quarterbacks of all time. But I think the media.
What?
I think the media fills your head with these narratives currently to keep you coming back because people like stars. You know what I mean? And I do think that objectively speaking, Brady's one of the greatest. I think one of the evidences of Brady being the greatest is when he left New England, what did he do immediately? He went and won a Super Bowl with another franchise. What does that tell you? He's a leader. He's a coach on the field. He is objectively a player.
Before you go, Darrell, I want to step in on this, and I'm not going to discredit Brady whatsoever. And Hummus, you bring up a great point. I want to mention this. Before Tampa got Tom Brady, they had Jameis Winston, who had the 30-30 here. But they still had the exact same defense and the same offensive weapons. Brady was the one missing piece that got him over that hump. Now, that is to Brady's leadership skills. I absolutely agree with you because it also shows that not any other quarterback could just walk in that building and could have taken them right to a Super Bowl. But what they basically said was, Jameis, you're throwing too many picks. You're wasting our talent here. And then Tom Brady falls right in their lap.
Yeah. Well, I agree. It's not like he walked in and just did everything by himself. But once again, it's a team sport, so that's never going to happen.
Agree.
My issue with this line of thinking is there's basically nothing Patrick Mahomes can do if he's the 20th best quarterback of all time, other than being traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I said 10,
make him the GOAT.
10 to 20. I didn't say the 20th. I said 10 to 20.
Okay, let's say he's the 10th.
At this point in his career, now if he continues the way that he is for another 10 years, then I'll address it. But right now,
he can't. He can't go to 7 straight. He can't go to 17 straight AFC Championship games. Well, that's just not going to happen.
But I'm talking about the life of a career, Darrell. I mean, like Gale Sayers. I'm older than you. I've been watching football a lot longer than you. I've watched entire careers. You know what I mean? And like Gale Sayers, for example, this is old. This is before my time. But like objectively speaking, people who watched him said he was the greatest running back who ever lived. But you know what? He never gets put in that position because he got a really injury. And
Chris Berman agrees with that sentiment because he talked about how great Gale Sayers was in the history of pro football. Because I remember watching, like the day he passed away, I remember Chris Berman gave that tribute to Gale Sayers, talked about his abilities on and off the field.
Right. So, that's my point. And like I said, I'll stop. Darrell, you're entitled to your own opinion about Mahomes, but I think you have fan blinders on a little bit about it. And I think a lot of people just they eat up what the media is telling them and what the NFL hype machine tells them. and that's that Mahomes is anointed as the greatest or the heir apparent to Brady or whoever it might be. And I'm just saying from an objective point of view, I know I'm digging at him, but like, it's not like this is Ohio State and Michigan. Like, I'm a Bengals fan, but like it's not insane with me like it is with Ohio State. So I'm not like allowing some insane bias to get in my thought process here. And I'm just telling you what I believe. I've been watching football for 35 years of my life, and I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Like, I
Okay,
remember
at
watching
this
Montana. I remember watching Montana and being in awe of what Montana could do. I remember watching even Peyton Manning and thinking, wow, this guy really calculates on the field. He's dominant. You know what I mean? And I'm just not ready to put Mahomes in that category yet. Now, do I think that this Chiefs run and the franchise in total is one of the greatest things that I've ever seen in football? Yes, I do. I think the Chiefs franchise and what they've done collectively is great, but I'm not putting it all on Mahomes like you are. I think
Well, I'm giving
he's
Andy
been a
Reid a ton
product
of
of
credit. I'm giving, Travis Kelsey is, but they all deserve the product of success. But here's an example. In their 20s, Tom Brady played 95 games. Patrick Mahomes played 112 games. Tom Brady's win percentage was 74. Mahomes is 79. Touchdown to interception ratio. Mahomes, 3.4. So every 3 to 4.4 touchdowns, he throws a pick. Brady, 1.9 at this point in his stage. Tom Brady, throughout his entire career, 3.1. I mean, he's 30th right now. He's 30th all time in touchdown passes. If he plays another 4 years, he should crack the top 20, top 15. If it's just about accumulating counting stats, he's much closer to top 15.
Well,
And then what's going to happen is he's going to get passed up because the inflation of touchdowns and stuff. Like I saw today, 2002, the leader was Tom Brady with 28 touchdown passes. The game has just changed so much to where I don't think we should be using just these counting stats.
Well, and Andrew Santana in the chat was talking about an obstacle for Patrick Mahomes, and he said Andy Reid might retire in the next 2 or 3 years. This will be the biggest obstacle for Mahomes. Like, I agree. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon because, like, he's returned for 2025. But after 2025, that's going to be the question there. But whoever becomes the Nets head coach in Kansas City after that is walking into a very good job. You get to have Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. So that's a win there.
And here's the thing. Here's what I like to call perks. I guarantee you, whenever Andy Reid's retirement comes or when he decides to leave, you don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a hand on who gets the next coaching job like Tom Brady did with the Buccaneers?
He absolutely should. He's a Ferrari. He's a Maserati. You should absolutely, he's the key to the engine. He should absolutely handpick whoever he wants. And the Chiefs, I don't care if the guy has literally no experience at all. You hire him because you get to keep Patrick Mahomes happy. And that's the only thing that matters. Like,
I agree with a lot of what you're saying about Mahomes. I mean, he's fun to watch. Like, he's obviously smart. Like, he has all the tools. Don't get me wrong. And that's why I said if he continues to do this for another, even 5 years, then I'll reevaluate and I'll probably.
Yeah, but what do you mean by this? Because he's done something in 7 years nobody's ever done, which is go to 7 straight AFC Championship games, go to 5 Super Bowls. He's doing things nobody's ever done before. Do you want him to go to 12 straight AFC Championship games?
Like, no, but once again, though, Duro, like I keep bringing it back to, like, how much of this, and nobody can really determine this because there's no calculus that can determine it, but how much of it is Mahomes and how much of it is the team? You can look at individual stats, you can do this, you can do that, but like Mahomes has been put in a very good position. Like
yes, but it's not like he was put in the best team. I mean, the Chiefs were a fine team. They were a 11-6, 12-5 team with Alex Smith, but it's not like they were just a dynasty before winning Super Bowls before. I mean,
no,
they were just.
But Andy Reid is a very good coach. I mean, like he really is. So
yeah, but he was on the team beforehand. It's
Yeah,
not
I
like
know,
they
but
changed
they
everything.
put it all together. It takes a while to get things rolling, and they're at that point. You know what I
But
mean?
it didn't
So,
for the Chiefs. Year one, they made the AFC Championship game, and the only reason they lost is because they played Brady and they lost that game in overtime. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out here what could possibly make him, in your opinion, one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time. Like, is he going to have to win 6 Super Bowls? Have like top 5 in touchdowns? You know, all this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. I saw
it's
Patrick
kind of.
Mahomes in
I
the
mean, it's
postseason.
to Daryl. It's a lot of it's opinion based. It's kind of like what we talk about with the committee room with the CFP. Like some of them are probably saying eye test. Some of them are saying let's look at metrics. Let's look at the statistics, game control, all these different metrics they can look at. So like in terms of some people looking at it, they're going to look at more how many rings do you have? They're going to look at how many passing yards do you have? And some people are going to say it's eye test. And in my opinion, when I watch Patrick Mahomes play, like he's a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. But like I've watched a lot of quarterbacks and I'm just not ready to put him there. I'm sorry, but I'm not.
If with all due respect, Thomas, I don't know what he could possibly do more for him to be elevated to a no doubt top 5. Like to me, I can't even think of 10 quarterbacks that could even be in the conversation to surpass Mahomes. Like he's done everything.
He has
Austin,
to
help me out,
surpass.
brother. Help me out. You look like you're dying,
I
brother,
think
up
that
there.
once again, I think you're putting too much on the rings. Like I think you really are.
Too much on the ring. Look at all the clutch plays he makes. I was talking about that 2021 drive with Austin against the Bills. That's the greatest drive in the history of the sport. Look at all
that's subjective, Daryl. You can't just make that claim. Like that's your
Okay.
opinion. That's your
Okay,
opinion.
that 13-second drive. What other drive in the history of the NFL is equal to that type of drive and that pressure situation?
That was amazing. Don't get me wrong, it was amazing. But I'm just saying, like that's like why you're throwing these things out here. They're not like this isn't something like I said. It's not grand slams in tennis, Daryl. You can't just measure this and say this person is unequivocally the best based on this drive, based on this. It's a team sport. And it's not.
I understand that. I'm trying to figure out what
like
you want to make you happy in order
are...
for him to be top 5. Because it doesn't seem like there's anything he could do except just play another 10 years, become first in touchdown by like 100 touchdowns, and just accumulate stats.
Just by watching Mahomes, I might not ever think that he's the greatest quarterback just by watching him. That's the truth. Because when I watched Brady in his prime, really until the end of his career, I just think Brady was a better quarterback than Mahomes from watching him. I think he had better arm talent. I think he processed better. He was just a better quarterback. I think a lot of the times Mahomes seems to have a kind of an intangible quality where he just things seem to happen for him. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is escapability and things like that. And also as he gets older and injuries, I'm not saying I wish injuries on him, but like that type of player, a lot of the times they'll run out of gas too. So we'll just have to wait and see.
He gets injured, and maybe this is all moot. But just like I mean, Austin, help me out, brother, because I'm just at a loss for words. I feel like I'm not even reading the same book as this guy. I haven't been watching the same movie.
That's because you have fan blinders on.
It's not blinders to say he's one of the top 5 best quarterbacks of all time. I think that's the common consensus.
He's one of the top 5 best quarterbacks of the past 20 years.
No, all
you're
time.
Dario, once again, you're talking about football. It's a sport that's been played for a very long time. Like
I'm talking what the general person thinks. I believe the average person believes he's a top 5 quarterback.
Dario, not a lot of people who are over the age of 40 aren't going to have the same opinion as you because we've been watching football for a lot longer than you.
I appreciate that, Hummus. I'm just saying what I believe the average
like it's just
person
the truth.
thinks.
Like, did you ever actually watch Joe Montana live?
Okay, I believe Joe Montana is the 3rd best quarterback of all time. But what the problem is with this is you're saying he's one of the 10 to 20 best quarterbacks of all time. And in order to get that, I mean, you would have to go Brady?
I put him in the general range of like he's maybe at John Elway level in my opinion. Like from watching him play, you know what I mean? He's like in that range. Like he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. Like he's a Hall of Famer.
he's been a Hall of Famer like three or
He's
4 years
first,
ago.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But like
Yeah.
once again, a lot of this is subjective. A lot of it's subjective. It's
Mhm.
going to come down to opinion because it's football. It's an inexact science to begin with. A lot of what you see in any given football game is dumb luck. Like it's just the truth.
I understand that, Austin. I need your help, brother. I need your help. Maybe your way of saying it will impact me.
So here's the thing. When it comes to these arguments of chasing the GOAT or who is the GOAT or who is top 10, top 15, we all have our opinions and we're all entitled to our opinions. Me personally, I would put Drew Brees in the same air as the guys that we're mentioning. I love me some Drew Brees, always have. But as far as the Brady Mahomes argument, as we're having right here, right now, there's things that you watch that Mahomes does that Brady could never even dream of doing, and that is Mahomes, his arm talent, his uncanny ability to be off time and off target and still make the throws is incredible. Whereas you watch Brady, in my opinion, if you get him off time and off target, that's how you beat him. Mahomes, he thrives doing that.
Yeah, I
Mahomes, if
agree.
he's on time,
They're different players.
go ahead, Hummus.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
And that's one of the things too, where when we look at this subjectively, you have to say, okay, like if we're not going to make it about the rings and everything, because we will consider all that, of course. We're not just going to dismiss it all when it's all said and done and be pooey. But we also got to look at the play on the field, look at the overall impact on the game. And Patrick Mahomes right now has influenced an entire generation. And not to gas the reel up any more than he needs to be, but look at all the players in college now doing sidearms and doing these throw behind the backs and no looks. Who started that? Mahomes. Nobody was doing that before Brady. Everyone was like, they followed the Brady method. Now everyone wants to be like Mahomes, throwing sidearms, behind the backs, no looks. You got to think about an entire generation. There's an entire generation that models their game after Mahomes, and there's an entire generation that models their game after Brady. And that's where it kind of feels like the conversation really goes, because we could have this all night of who's better, who's made more clutch plays when they both made just as good as better as anybody. But when you talk generations, like you said, Hummus, it's different for everybody. But Mahomes, just the way players now are doing things, it's Mahomes esque. He's changed the game like Steph Curry.
Yeah, and Austin, I mean, just to accentuate that point, I mean, look at Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback. He's doing literally everything possible to beat Mahomes.
Yeah,
His hair's like Mahomes, his jersey numbers Mahomes. I mean, the school he went to is Mahomes colors and the red and white. I mean, I completely agree with that
He
point.
wants to be a Mahomes. And I will say this, that Austin brings up a good point, and I will say for this generation, Mahomes is the best. Like there's if you want to create a generation divide between the Brady, Breeze, Manning, those guys, and then what came afterwards, like I'm putting Mahomes in a better category than Lamar Jackson, better than Josh, better than Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? So for this current generation, I would agree. Like Mahomes is the best, but that's what I'm saying is that like when you look at this, like I said, it's compounded by so many factors when it comes to football. It's not an individual sport, and it's not even basketball. Like when you have the LeBron and Michael Jordan argument, and some of that's kind of like the reality is that Michael Jordan always had Pippen, who was also like a top 20 NBA player of all time. So like. You get what I'm saying. Like it was a good.
I guess the frustrating part for me is it just feels like you have your opinion, and there's literally nothing Mahomes could do outside just playing better that would matter. Like he could win the 10 Super Bowl, but if it's carried by his defense, then he's not the GOAT.
That's
I
true.
mean,
I know. It might just be real. You're just going to have to accept it. I might not ever watch Mahomes and say this is the greatest quarterback who ever lived. You know
Well,
what I
you
mean?
And
Like,
understand
before,
most people
it's
will
like I
accept.
said, this is my problem with people and quarterbacks is that like I said, in my opinion, I think that Brady is probably the greatest, but I'm not going to
Oh
say
yeah,
that.
as of right now, he is. Yeah.
I'm not going to say that undeniably, and I'm not going to say it like it's some sort of objective truth. You know what I mean? But this is my problem with quarterbacks, and that's why I brought up Gale Sayers earlier. Because when we look at running backs, we never look at the same thing. Oh, how many rings do they have? When we look at defensive backs, we never say the same thing. Like the quarterback gets way too much praise for everything that happens on the team, and they also take too much shade when things go wrong. Like the reality is that nobody cares that Barry Sanders never won or I don't even know if he ever won a playoff
You
game.
know, he
No.
won a lot. He won a few playoff games, but he
Oh, he
never
did?
could get
so
to.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, nobody ever has this debate who's better, Barry Sanders or Emmett Smith, because Emmett Smith has 3 Super Bowls or whatever he has. Um, Everybody says Barry Sanders is better because they watched the two of them run and they said he's better. And that's where I'll end this is that I've watched a lot of quarterbacks, and when I watch Mahomes play, I simply don't think
mhm,
he's the best quarterback I've ever seen play.
mhm.
And I might
And
not ever by watching him. Even if
Well,
he
that's
goes on
fine.
to
I
win
just
some
have a
more
bigger problem with you saying he's the 10 to 20 range. Like that to me just is like you're putting him like in a below Aaron
there's a
Rodgers, Drew
real
Brees.
there's been a lot of good there's been a lot of really good
he-
quarterbacks played in that.
Yeah, but
so
there isn't a lot of Patricks.
No,
I
but
get
here I want.
there's a lot of Marinos and Elways and like Jackson or somebody said earlier, Johnny Unitas. Like there's
I
been
did.
great players
I
since the beginning of the sport.
Yeah,
Like
Johnny
it's just
Unitas at
true.
his point in time was considered the GOAT
so
when he
I,
after his
I,
career.
I want to interject something real fast. Call a quick timeout. So I get where you both are coming from, and I'm going to steal this quote, but there's a certain somebody that that I, that puts out daily quotation tweets and all that. But I also grew up watching him, and he said something very interesting that pertains to this conversation. If you can tell by my posters, you'll get it here in a second. But there's people that are always going to be drinking the haterade. Those are not the ones you worry about. The ones that are behind you and the ones that are for you are the ones you go to bat for. And for Mahomes, Darrell, you are going to bat for Mahomes. Hummus is not so much. Not that he's a hater, absolutely not. But he just doesn't see it, and he may never, in which that's fine. But
Right.
and that's
But
okay. Mahomes.
the thing, I guess, the thing that bothered me the most in this conversation, I understand that. I understand there's people who believe Larry Bird is the greatest of all time or Magic
And
Johnson.
they're entitled to that opinion.
Right, they are.
That's their
But it's like
opinion.
if you interviewed 100 people, how many people would say Michael Jordan versus Larry Bird? I Most people would say Michael Jordan, correct? I think we
Yes,
can all agree to that. And I think we're
97%.
we're
Well,
getting
and
when he's if we did a YouTube poll and we had 10,000 people say where is Mahomes at all time, 1 to 3, 4 to 8, 10 to 12, or 12 plus. Most people, I do not believe, would be clicking that 12 plus option. I think that would be by the least percentage. I think that would get less than 10%. And for my opinion, for just Hummus to say he's anywhere from 10 to 20, I mean, listen, I understand there's tons of good quarterbacks. I understand there's some great quarterbacks we've listed today, but I don't see him just being worse than Drew Brees, worse than you have to put him worse than a lot of great quarterbacks, or I understand maybe it's a counting stat thing, or maybe it's just you're not
Hmm.
having 5 stats. I'm just saying in general, what do people think about Mahomes? Right now, in general, I believe most people think he's one of the 3 to 5 best top three. I'll go top three because he's been to 5 Super Bowls. Do you agree with
Hmm.
that, Austin? Most people think he's a top 3 quarterback right now.
Yes, I would say yes, because what he has done is rarefied air. Getting to 5 Super Bowls alone is something special. Look at Drew Brees, the person you just mentioned. He's been to one.
Right.
Eli won two, but he never went back after that.
Right. And he beat Brady. But he's still, in my opinion, this goes to a bit of Hummus's thing. I don't believe Eli Manning is somehow better than some quarterbacks. Like, I don't believe he's better than Drew Brees despite having twice the amount of Super Bowls. I think Drew Brees is better because he was way more consistent over a much longer period of time. But that's just my opinion.
Drew
Yeah, and
Brees.
I'm not using that to like cut at Mahomes. Like I think that Mahomes is a big huge portion of the greatness of the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. You know
Jackson,
what I mean? So I'm not saying that. And like I said, like currently I think that he is the best. I'm just saying that we're kind of a prisoner of the moment. And also, if you're polling people currently, they're thinking of things in a current mind state for the most part. Like I'm one of these people that has a weird memory, and like I remember things I kind of have that eidetic memory thing, and I just remember like most football games visually that I've seen. And like I said, I'm sorry. Like I'm not being a hater. I'm not. I'm just. It's just my honest opinion that when I watch Mahomes, I don't think he's the best, and
okay,
I might
so
not ever unless he continues to get even better, like in terms of his skill set. Then I'm probably never going to say that I think he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen.
that's not my issue. It's the
Not
10 to
based on
20
any
thing.
type of not based on any type of accolades or amount of wins that he's going to get. Like, I mean, maybe if he did win 5 Super Bowls in a row, then it would just be undeniable, and it'd be like, well, this guy's got some kind of like God's watching him or something, and he just, you know what I mean, like.
Well, that's fine because it's your opinion. That's not my issue. My issue is you said most when I said most people would put him in a certain range. You objected to that because you thought it'd be lower. That was one of the things I was objecting with because it
I
seems
said
like
that.
you.
Yeah, no, but what I said in rebuttal to that after you said about the YouTube poll is I'm saying that those people would be being polled like currently, and a lot of those people would be of a younger age, obviously, because you know if you poll people who are my dad's age and you asked them and they've been watching football for not 35 years like me, they've been watching football for 55 years, then the answers would be completely different because they actually watched Johnny Unitas. You know what I mean? They watched Glenn Dawson and these different quarterbacks from old. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I
The
get that
game might have been
everybody's.
different. The game might have been different, but you can't just discredit everything because the game was different either. You know what I mean? Like you just said, like passing numbers and everything like that's skewed all the time.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know what
don't
I mean?
believe
Like
in looking
Sammy
just solely at the
Ball
passing
back in the
numbers.
day, like you can't say that. You can't say that. I don't know. It's just a weird thing, man. And if you watch the sport, like the quarterback was still the same position, just like these arguments about basketball, and you'll say, "Oh, LeBron, oh, different era, this, that, Will, whoever, Kareem," and it's like, yeah, that's like something, and that's why this is all. It's pretty futile when you start talking about it. Like it really is.
I mean, maybe it's just my massive homerism, but this opinion that I'm seeing is so uncommon from what I've seen from anywhere else. It was just startling to me. Like it's just maybe it's a very silent majority type thing. I just like I wish we could get people an average poll of people in all different ranges because I mean I saw that comment from Jason. Oh, he's obviously a smart guy, knowledgeable guy. I could see 5 to 10. I could see 5 to 10, but it's just I'm here as a Chase fan. I'm like, bro, what do you want us to do? It would be like somebody telling Jackson 7 years into the Nick Saban run, hey, Nick Saban isn't the greatest of all time. He's not even one of the 10 best coaches of all time. It's just like, what else does this man have to do?
Daryl, here's the thing, Daryl, and play devil's advocate once again. I think what Hummus is trying to get at, and see if maybe this makes a little more sense, is he's talking about the generations. Everybody has a different opinion on your generations. Let's take basketball, for example. If you played in LeBron's era, you think LeBron's the greatest player that ever lived. If you played Jordan's, you think Jordan's the greatest player that ever lived. If you played in Bird's era, it's all about where you landed generations. Right now, in our generation, a lot of us think Mahomes is right there with Brady. But there would be people that played with Brady would be like, Mahomes doesn't even sniff his level.
Right.
And then there
I
would be
think
people,
those. Yeah, I
real
think
quick,
those
Daryl,
people. Sorry.
you're good, Daryl. There'd be Josh Allen. He would be like, I played against Brady and Mahomes. He would be one of those rare ones. But you look at the younger ones like CJ Stroud and stuff. Years from now, they'll be on podcasts saying that boy Mahomes was something serious. But go ahead, Daryl.
I think what you're talking about is more of a prisoner of their moment. Like, when you were a child or when you were growing up, your stuff was the best stuff.
Mhm.
But in
Mm-hmm.
actuality, people nowadays have better stuff than your stuff. But people think because you grew up in it, it's your stuff is the best stuff. And I think that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about with I grew up with Bart Starr, therefore he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I grew up with Johnny Unitas, therefore he's one of the greatest of all time. Like, first off, I don't even know where to watch Johnny Unitas film. So,
On you,
it's
there's a John Unitas documentary from Sports Century on YouTube, and there's plenty of other documentaries, and you can find plenty of old games of John Unitas in black and white and color.
right, but that's the thing. You have to intentionally go out of your way, search out these games. It's not like nowadays you just flip it on the
Oh,
TV
if
and you
you
see
want,
them.
I can. If you want, man, I can DM you some of those old highlights of his
And,
at some
and
point.
this is a great comment right here from Jason O. He says, young fans love ranking current players against players who they've never seen. It's hard to explain to people who stare at stats all the time why Jordan is better than LeBron. He just is. And that's a great point. Like, we're all old enough here. We've watched Brady and Mahomes, and we're still watching Mahomes. We can both say objectively we've watched them both,
Yeah, I did.
and they
I thought
both are
Mahomes was
winners.
better.
Hmm. And
My
that's
issue
the
is it's like having an older person say, you know what, LeBron isn't as good as Michael Jordan. He's not even as good as James Worthy. He's not even as good as James Worthy. Like, James Worthy is a very solid player, Hall of Famer, went to won plenty of championships. He was a key part of those Lakers team, and that's where I think Hummus is at. And that's if he wants to say he's not the first, second, or even third best, that's fine. But having him
I
like
did not. No, that's an unfair comparison, Daryl. I did not. That's not analogous whatsoever to what I said. James Worthy
maybe I'm
is
just higher on
he's a good
James Worthy than you are, but I like James Worthy. He was a
no.
he was a great player in that era. I mean, he was the third option on the Los Angeles Lakers.
so.
Well, there's one thing we didn't mention tonight about the Eagles. So we talked about the Eagles winning their first Super Bowl in 2017. Do you know how many players from the 2017 Super Bowl team were on the 2024-2025 Super Bowl roster for the Eagles?
I know Brandon Graham was a part of that roster
Uh-huh.
because he was the one who got the strip sack on Brady. One of the
Mhm.
most memorable plays in Super Bowl history, and thus the worst day in my life. But go ahead, Jackson.
And three other men were Lane Johnson, the offensive tackle, Rick Lovato, the long snapper, and Jake Elliott, the kicker for the Eagles. So
Hmm.
so that is pretty cool right there. And I bet it must feel pretty cool to be a part of that team that ended the championship drought in 2017. And then like years later, you win your second one in your career. That has got to be pretty cool right there. And Alabama and Oklahoma are definitely pretty happy to share the glory for Jalen Hurts.
Boy,
I
do
think
I got to eat crow on that one. Go ahead, Daryl.
it. Don't worry, it's much worse for me watching the game than it was you. I know you don't believe it, but trust me, it was because you. It's something when you believe, like, oh, we're just going to lose this game, but as a Chiefs fan, you don't think you're actually going to lose the game until it's like 17-0. And then that was like, oh no, we're going to lose this game. And then when he throws that second pick, it's like, oh no, it's really over. And it's just, you're as a Cowboys fan, you're just kind of used to losing. I hate to say it that way, but we don't have the luxury of dealing
Daryl,
with these losses.
Daryl, here's the thing. A lot of Cowboys fans would get upset that you're saying this about us, but you know what, Daryl? I'm one of them that until Jerry Jones gets out of his way, it's just how it's going to be. We'll go
Yeah.
12 and
They
5.
never will. They never will. But
Here's what's gonna happen, Daryl. I got the secret for you, which is no secret. We're gonna go
No,
13
hey,
and 4
hold
next
on.
year.
Time out.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna keep doing that war chant because you know what? It's our tradition and it's something we love doing. Okay, it's what makes
Well,
us.
remember.
Don't tell us about our traditions, Jason.
Well, anyway, Jason O like apparently is not too big a fan of the Chiefs watching. Like me, I like it because it's with the Atlanta Braves. I mean, it's pretty
And the
cool.
Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. There, it's like they all share something.
And he-
Listen, it's what makes. What other NFL team has their own like signature thing they do? There's not really one outside the Chiefs that have their own way to start the game, and I mean, just I don't get it.
Well, and Tim was on here a little while ago talking about coming back from seeing USC defeating Penn State at the Galen Center. Matter of fact, USC smacked Penn State off the face of the earth tonight.
What is this in basketball?
92-57.
Is this basketball or wrestling or what?
Men's college
Wrestling.
basketball.
USC has a basketball team. I haven't seen them on
Oh,
bracket in
Lord.
March. They have a basketball team.
Oh,
I know, right, Daryl?
No, I can't relate to this. Hey, Washington, congratulations, by the way, on being back in the
well,
bracket.
congrats on Kentucky smacking Tennessee again in
Yeah,
college.
hey, listen, just winning isn't easy. Okay, I had to get the broom out tonight in order to sweep that ugly.
Let's see what you can do in the first round of the round of 64 first.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if
just
you
hope
saw.
they don't run into, let's just hope they don't get matched up with St. Peter's.
No, we got rid of our problem. We got
Oh,
rid of
boy.
Calipari. We'll be fine. I think
Well,
Kentucky will
Calipari's not coaching him anymore. You know, he's not living off the glory days. So
I think we'll be fine. I mean, I'm worried about injuries. Injuries are piling up for us. Lamont Butler went out again. It looked like he had another shoulder injury, just coming back from a shoulder injury. So that's not great. Jackson